I've been with my fiancée Nora, 29F, for 6 years now. We met at a local coffee shop where she was working as a barista. I remember that day clearly. It was a rainy Tuesday morning, and I was running late for work. I ducked into the coffee shop to grab a quick espresso, and there she was, with her warm smile and dark curly hair. I was instantly smitten. Over the next few weeks, I found myself going to that coffee shop every morning, even though it was out of my way. We'd chat while she made my coffee, and I learned that she was working there to put herself through college. After about a month of this daily routine, I finally worked up the courage to ask her out. To my surprise and delight, she said yes. Our first date was at a small Italian restaurant downtown. We talked for hours, closing down the place. I learned about her difficult childhood in foster care, and she listened sympathetically as I talked about the pressures of my job as a software engineer. We hit it off immediately and have been together ever since. I, 32M, work as a software engineer at a large tech company. I come from a middle-class family in the suburbs. My dad was a high school teacher and my mom was a nurse. I had a pretty normal upbringing with them and my older sister Lisa. We weren't rich, but we always had enough. I did well in school, got a scholarship to a good college, and landed a job at a tech startup right after graduation. The startup was eventually acquired by a larger company, which is where I work now. Nora's childhood was much more difficult. She was abandoned as a baby, left at a fire station with no note or identifying information. She never knew her biological parents and spent her entire childhood in the foster care system. She bounced around different homes throughout her childhood, never staying in one place for more than a year or two. Some homes were okay, others were neglectful or even abusive. Early in our relationship, Nora told me about her brother, Alex, 31M. She explained that they weren't biologically related, but had grown up together in the same foster home for several years as teens. According to Nora, they were placed in the home of an older couple when she was 14 and Alex was 16. It was the first stable home either of them had experienced, and they bonded quickly. Nora said they formed a sibling-like relationship, looking out for each other and providing emotional support. Even after they aged out of the system, they stayed in touch and considered each other family. I thought it was sweet that Nora had found family through her difficult childhood. Coming from a close-knit family myself, I couldn't imagine going through life without that support system. I was glad she had Alex, even if they weren't related by blood. Over the years, Alex has been a constant presence in our lives. Nora would often cancel our plans last minute to hang out with him if he called. She'd say things like, "Alex is having a hard time at work and needs someone to talk to," or "Alex just broke up with his girlfriend and doesn't want to be alone." At first I was understanding. Given their background, I could see why they'd be protective of each other. But as time went on, it started to wear on me. There were countless times when we'd be out to dinner or watching a movie, and Nora would be constantly checking her phone for messages from Alex. She'd frequently invite him on trips we planned together, turning romantic getaways into group hangouts. There were times I felt like the third wheel in my own relationship. Whenever I expressed any frustration about this, Nora would get defensive. She'd accuse me of trying to come between her and her only family. She'd remind me of how I had my parents and sister, while Alex was all she had. It made me feel guilty for even bringing it up. I did my best to accept their close relationship, even though it made me uncomfortable at times. Alex would often crash at our apartment, sometimes even sharing a bed with Nora if I was out of town for work. When I objected to this, saying it seemed inappropriate, Nora brushed off my concerns. She said I was being paranoid and that I should trust her. She insisted it was no different than her sharing a bed with a female friend. Despite the issues with Alex, Nora and I had a good relationship overall. We moved in together after dating for a year. At the time, I was doing well at my job while Nora was still in college. I supported her financially, covering all our expenses, including her tuition. I didn't mind. I wanted her to be able to focus on her studies without the stress of working full-time. Even after she graduated and got a job as a social worker, I continued paying for most things since my salary was much higher. Nora would occasionally bring up feeling guilty about this, but I assured her it wasn't an issue. I was happy to support us, and I knew her work, while not highly paid, was meaningful to her. I proposed to Nora last year on our 5th anniversary. I had it all planned out. A picnic in the park where we had our second date, followed by a surprise party with all our friends and family. She said yes immediately, and we started planning our wedding for this summer. I was excited to start our lives together as a married couple. However, things started to get weird when we began discussing buying a house together. With the wedding coming up, we thought it made sense to invest in a property rather than continuing to rent. I started looking at neighborhoods and crunching numbers to see what we could afford. I suggested putting both our names on the deed, thinking it was the natural thing to do as a married couple. But Nora insisted we add Alex's name as well. I was completely blindsided by this request. When I asked why, She said Alex was her family and she wanted him to have a stake in our home too. She talked about how he'd always struggled financially and this would give him some security. We got into a huge fight about it. I couldn't understand why she would want her brother on the deed to our marital home. It felt like she was prioritizing him over our relationship yet again. Nora accused me of trying to exclude her brother and said I was being selfish. She even suggested that if I really loved her, I would do this for her. I felt like I was going crazy. Was I being unreasonable for not wanting my fiancé's brother on the deed to our home? I tried talking to my friends about it, but they all seemed to think it was weird too. My best friend Mark suggested that maybe Nora and Alex's relationship wasn't as platonic as I thought, but I dismissed that idea. Nora had never given me any reason to doubt her fidelity. Then last week, I ran into Nora's old college roommate Jess at a bar. We got to talking, and I mentioned the house situation, hoping to get her perspective as someone who knew Nora well. Jess looked really uncomfortable and asked if I knew the full story about Nora and Alex. Turns out, Alex isn't Nora's brother at all. They dated for several years as teenagers and were each other's first love. They only started calling each other siblings later on to avoid judgment from others about their unusually close relationship. Jess assumed I knew all this already since Nora and I were engaged. I feel like my whole relationship has been built on a lie. Nora has been referring to her ex-boyfriend as her brother for our entire 6-year relationship. All those times she prioritized him over me or shared a bed with him take on a whole new meaning now. I'm questioning everything. Has their relationship really been platonic this whole time? Why did she feel the need to lie about this for so long? I'm completely lost on what to do. Part of me wants to confront Nora immediately and call off the wedding. But another part wonders if I'm overreacting. Maybe their relationship really is just platonic now, and the lie started as a coping mechanism from their difficult childhoods. I'm supposed to be getting married in 2 months, but now I don't know if I even know the real Nora. Should I end things over this deception or try to work through it? Any advice would be appreciated. Update 1. Thank you all for the advice and support. After reading through the comments, I realized I needed to confront Nora about the situation before making any decisions. I sat Nora down last night and told her what Jess had revealed to me. At first, Nora tried to deny it, claiming Jess must have misunderstood or was confused about the timeline. But when I pressed her on the details, she finally broke down and admitted the truth. Nora and Alex had indeed dated from ages 15-19. They met in the foster home I mentioned earlier, but their relationship was romantic from the start, not sibling-like as Nora had claimed. They bonded over their shared experiences in foster care and quickly became inseparable. Nora went into more detail about their relationship than I really wanted to hear. She talked about how Alex was her first everything, first kiss, first love, first sexual experience. They had plans to get married and even talked about trying to adopt kids who were in the system like they had been. But when they were 19, Alex got into some legal trouble. He started hanging out with a bad crowd and got caught up in a robbery. He was sentenced to 2 years in juvenile detention. Nora was devastated but tried to stand by him. She visited him regularly, and they wrote letters back and forth. However, as time went on, Nora started to realize that she wanted more out of life. She enrolled in community college and began to see a future for herself beyond just being Alex's girlfriend. When Alex got out, things were different between them. They tried to make it work for a few months, but eventually broke up. Nora said the breakup was incredibly difficult for both of them. They had been each other's entire world for so long. They struggled with losing the only stable relationship they'd ever had. So they decided to rebrand themselves as siblings to maintain their close bond without the romantic complications. I asked Nora why she never told me the truth in our 6 years together. She claimed she was afraid I wouldn't understand and would try to limit her relationship with Alex. She said she had seen how uncomfortable I was with their closeness even when I thought they were siblings, and she was afraid of losing Alex completely if I knew the truth. She swore that things between them have been purely platonic since their breakup over a decade ago. She said they realized they were better as friends and that their romantic relationship had been more about clinging to familiarity than genuine compatibility. I told Nora that while I could understand the initial lie, I couldn't get past her maintaining the deception for our entire relationship, especially since we were about to get married. I explained that her hiding this made me question what else she might be lying about. Nora broke down crying, begging me not to end things. She promised to cut Alex out of her life completely if that's what it took. She said I was more important to her than anyone, and she couldn't bear to lose me. But at this point, I don't know if I can ever fully trust her again. This wasn't a small white lie or a one-time mistake. This was years of intentional deception about a major part of her life. And even now, I'm not sure I'm getting the full truth. I told Nora I needed some time and space to process everything. I'm staying with my sister Lisa for a few days to clear my head. Lisa has been incredibly supportive, letting me vent and offering advice. She thinks I should end the relationship, saying that trust is the foundation of any marriage, and Nora has completely shattered that. Nora has been calling and texting nonstop since I left. At first, it was all apologies and promises to do better. But as the days have gone on, her messages have taken on a more accusatory tone. She's saying that I'm abandoning her like everyone else in her life, and that if I really loved her, I would forgive her. She's even tried to guilt me by bringing up how much I've supported her financially over the years. I'm still unsure of what to do. On one hand, I love Nora, and we've built a life together over 6 years. I know her childhood trauma has affected her in many ways, and I want to be understanding of that. But on the other hand, this feels like such a fundamental breach of trust. I'm not sure I can move past it, especially with how she's handling the fallout. I've put the wedding planning on hold for now until I figure things out. I called the venue and our vendors to explain the situation. Most have been understanding, though we'll likely lose some deposits if we cancel entirely. My friends and family have been divided in their advice. Some think I should try to work it out with Nora, saying that everyone has a past and that her lie, while big, didn't directly impact our relationship. Others think I should run for the hills, saying that someone who could lie so easily for so long can't be trusted. I'm trying to take some time for myself to really think about what I want. I've started journaling to help process my thoughts and emotions. I'm also considering talking to a therapist to help me work through this. Thank you again for all the support and advice as I navigate this difficult situation. I'll update again once I've made a decision about how to move forward. Update 2. It's been about a week since my last update. In that time, I've done a lot of thinking and had some difficult conversations with Nora. After a few days apart, I agreed to meet with Nora to discuss our relationship. We met at a neutral location, a park near my sister's house. I wanted to be somewhere public to keep things calm, but also somewhere we could talk privately. I explained to Nora that while I understood her difficult past, I couldn't get past the years of deception. The fact that she was willing to lie to me about something so significant for our entire relationship made me question everything. Nora continued to insist that her relationship with Alex was now purely platonic. However, as we talked more details came out that she hadn't initially shared. She admitted that she and Alex had slept together a few times over the years when they were both single, including once shortly before she and I started dating. This revelation was like a punch to the gut. It was bad enough that she had lied about their past relationship, but to know that it had continued in some form up until right before we got together was too much. It made me wonder if there had been more recent incidents she wasn't admitting to. I told Nora that I no longer felt I could trust her. The foundation of our relationship had been built on lies, and I didn't see how we could come back from that. I officially called off our engagement and told her I wanted to end our relationship. Nora didn't take it well. She alternated between hysterical crying and angry accusations. She claimed I was punishing her for her past and throwing away our future over a mistake. She brought up all the ways she had supported me over the years, conveniently forgetting how much I had supported her financially. She even threatened to hurt herself if I left her. I stood firm in my decision, but I was worried about Nora's mental state. I reached out to her closest friend to check on her and make sure she wasn't alone. I also suggested that Nora might benefit from talking to a therapist to work through her issues. Over the next few days, Nora's behavior became increasingly erratic. She showed up at my workplace, causing a scene in the lobby. Security had to escort her out. She left countless voicemails ranging from tearful apologies to vicious insults. She even contacted my family members on social media to plead her case. I've had to block Nora on everything and am considering a restraining order if her behavior doesn't stop. This whole situation has been emotionally exhausting, but I know I've made the right decision for myself. I'm working on untangling our shared finances and living situation. Thankfully, we never went through with buying the house together. I'm going to be moving out of our apartment next week and starting fresh. My company has been understanding and is allowing me to work remotely for a few weeks while I get settled. I've been leaning heavily on my friends and family for support during this time. My sister Lisa has been especially helpful, offering me a place to stay and a sympathetic ear. My parents, while shocked by the situation, have been supportive of my decision. This experience has made me realize how much I let my own needs and feelings take a back seat in my relationship with Nora. I was so focused on supporting her and understanding her past trauma that I ignored red flags and my own discomfort. It's a pattern I need to be aware of going forward. Thank you all again for your support through this difficult time. While I'm heartbroken, I know this is ultimately for the best. I'm looking forward to moving on and eventually finding a relationship built on honesty and mutual respect. Update 3. It's been about a month since my last update. I wanted to provide one final update on the situation for closure. Shortly after my last post, Nora's erratic behavior escalated to the point where I had to file for a temporary restraining order. She had shown up at my new apartment, I'm not sure how she got the address, and tried to force her way in. She was yelling and pounding on the door, causing a disturbance. Thankfully, my neighbor called the police, and she was removed from the property. The day after the restraining order was granted, I received a call from Alex of all people. He apologized for his role in the deception and admitted that he and Nora had rekindled their romantic relationship almost immediately after our breakup. Apparently, Nora had been staying with him and had told him a very different version of events. She had painted me as controlling and abusive, claiming I had thrown her out with nowhere to go. Alex said he felt guilty about the whole situation and wanted to come clean. He revealed that he and Nora had never truly stopped their physical relationship, even during our time together. They would meet up whenever I was out of town for work, using the guise of their sibling relationship as cover. I thanked Alex for his honesty, but told him I wanted nothing more to do with either of them. The revelation that Nora had not only lied throughout our relationship, but had also been actively cheating on me was the final nail in the coffin. I've since blocked his number as well. In the weeks that followed, I focused on healing and moving forward. I've been staying busy with work and have taken up running as a way to clear my head. I've also been spending more time with friends and family, rebuilding the connections I had neglected during my relationship with Nora. I'm slowly starting to feel like myself again. The anger and betrayal I felt initially have faded into a sort of dull sadness. While I'm not ready to date yet, I'm hopeful that I'll eventually be able to trust someone again. For now, I'm focusing on my career and my own personal growth. I've moved into a new apartment in a different part of the city. It's a fresh start, away from the memories of my life with Nora. I'm enjoying the process of making this space my own, without having to consider anyone else's preferences or needs. Financially, it's been a bit of an adjustment going back to a single-income household. I've had to tighten my budget a bit, but it's manageable. If anything, it's been eye-opening to realize how much I was spending to support Nora over the years. The wedding cancellation was a headache to deal with, but it's finally all sorted out. We lost some deposits, but it was worth it to avoid making a huge mistake. My family has been incredibly supportive throughout this process, helping me notify guests and deal with vendors. As for Nora, I haven't heard from her since the restraining order was put in place. Part of me hopes she's getting the help she needs, but mostly I'm just relieved to have her out of my life. The experience has taught me a lot about the importance of honesty in relationships and trusting my instincts when something feels off. Looking back, there were so many red flags that I chose to ignore or explain away. It's a harsh lesson, but one I needed to learn. In the future, I'll be more cautious about fully trusting someone, but I'm trying not to let this experience make me overly cynical. This experience has taught me a lot about myself and what I want in a partner. I know now that I value honesty and transparency above all else. I also realize that I need someone who can stand on their own 2 feet, not someone who relies on me completely. Thank you all again for your support throughout this ordeal. Your advice and kind words have been a lifeline during this difficult time. I won't be providing any further updates, as I'm ready to close this chapter of my life and move forward. Here's to new beginnings, and hopefully, someday, finding a relationship built on trust and mutual respect.